Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're going to be talking about some Star Wars news because guess what? There really isn't any Star Wars news to talk about because as Wired here at the Cantina Talk, as it loves to name all of its little, what are the rumors? Is there any validity to them? Let's go into them all, all in one place, likes to indicate why are things so quiet on the Star Wars front. Now, I have my own speculations to this, but let's see how they start things off before they get into all of the, the little things that they can say that they know, even though there is no news. It's interesting that their entire Cantina Talk is dedicated to Star Wars news when there is no news. It's like, who would do that? Right? Though, of course, I do have a much bigger thought process, and I'm going to connect this to a lot of other things that have been happening behind the scenes, and also some recent revelations that might help to maybe explain as to why things are so quiet in the Star Wars front overall. And so, here it is, starting off, it says, so there was no Super Bowl trailer for Star Wars Episode 9, despite relentless anticipation and hunger for one. Yet, considering things are quiet, suspiciously, painfully quiet, suspiciously I think is right, in the galaxy far, far away right now, that's not terribly surprising. Seriously, what is going on? It's like there are plans being put into place for the building of a cultural Death Star that no one is fully aware of just yet. The next Star Wars movie is 10 months away, and for now, let's just appreciate the fact that the world is not fully submerged in Lucasfilm lore just yet. It's really only a matter of time. So this person is obviously trying to say, oh, well, it shouldn't be. I mean, we're still 10 months away, and, it's not like they've ever put, a year out, a trailer, or at least a title a year out before a film goes out. That way they can try and build it up. It's not like this is the last film of a trilogy, despite the fact that the trilogy has been just trashed because of Last Jedi. No. Let's not talk about those things. Just, get ready to get excited. Let's talk about things that are going on. Like The Mandalorian, which, to be honest, sidebar for a second, I am very excited for The Mandalorian. They seem to be doing everything right when it comes to that show, and so I'm quite excited for it, especially since Jon Favreau is the one behind it. But that really isn't enough to get me excited because guess what? It's only going to be on the Disney streaming service, a Disney streaming service that we have yet to really have an official release date for. And also, it's just been revealed, as I've mentioned in previous videos, that they lost money in their streaming with Hulu, ESPN Plus, etc. And they're expected to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, twice as much, on content than Netflix is in 2019 alone. And that is all before they actually have an established streaming service. So some people might say, well, you have to spend more because that's how you get all your content out there. But the problem with that is that they own most of the content. And so that means to me that they're putting twice as much money into new content. And that has me concerned because where's that money going? And do they really want to put that much money into something that they don't even know whether it's going to be successful or not? I personally think that it could go either way. I think that they could definitely get a lot of subscriptions early on, especially since they're talking about being competitive with Netflix. Again, the early goings right now is that they want to get it to be cheaper than Netflix, but there's also speculation that there's going to be some kind of tiered system because when you think about it, Disney has a gigantic catalog of old TV series, old movies, countless numbers. The Disney Fox deal is set to go ahead at any time now, probably within the next couple months, March, early April at the latest, which means that they'll have even access to even more content. Also, with that, they'd buy the shares rather in that acquisition, they would get the 30% shares of Hulu that Fox currently owns, which means that they would own over 60% of Hulu, which means I guess they would have access or they would have just a bit of a higher ability to maybe strong arm other companies that are also attached. It's interesting. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on, but there's really nothing that's being said by anyone involved. And this goes not just within this news, but also with other things related to the Star Wars universe as well, especially when it comes to Lucasfilm. And all of this stuff, this giant void is, of course, leading to a lot of people speculating, and it's also leading to a lot of jokes as well. Everyone knows that Mark Hamill loves to be a trickster. He loves, obviously he is the Joker in real life form, and so therefore he loves to kind of tease people along, and he says, oh, you're freaking out over this, you're disappointed that there's no trailer and that there's no title yet. Relax, nerds. Very nice, Mark. Obviously I take that as a badge of honor because I myself am a proud nerd, but that is besides the point. And he says, Futurama predicted it years ago, and we all know cartoons never lie. Exclusive breaking news, episode 9, Yoda's bar mitzvah, which would be amazing. And obviously I know you're kidding, but also at the same time, seriously, dude, you're 10 months out for your movie coming out, and we have not heard anything substantial. If you don't even have a title, let alone a trailer. It's one thing not to have a trailer, That one I think you can have a little bit more leeway with, but in order for you to get hype started, especially when your last movie, I don't think that people understand this. The reason why I am so hyped about this, the reason why I am just so critical of this overall is because people forget the last Star Wars movie that we got, that was made, lost $200 million at the box office. Solo is the first Star Wars film in history to lose money. It lost $200 million back, which is a very hard number to make back, even if you sell the rights, which they did, to people like Netflix, and you sell the distribution rights so that way people can show it on TVs and stuff, and you make money back that way. $200 million is a lot of money to make back. And so it makes sense to me that they haven't said anything, only if it means that they are freaking out right now saying, oh my God, we have got to get everything pitch perfect. Otherwise, we're going to be in big trouble. It's doubled down, or rather reinforced by the fact that Bob Iger himself over the last few months has come out and said that Star Wars is not in a good place, that Star Wars is not in a good position, that they're going to have to start slowing things down. I mean, keep this in mind. When The Force Awakens came out, it was unstoppable. They were like, oh my God, yes, that's right. We're going to make solo projects. We're going to continue with this trilogy, and we're going to continue to establish new characters and new shows, and just that we're going to build the world. The world's going to explode. And look where we are now. So far, we've gotten, 2 solo project films. One was okay. The other was just, why did it exist? I know there's a lot of people that defend Rogue One out there, but I'm sorry, it was just okay. And the main reason for that is because what is the main thing that you remember from that movie? Everyone says, oh, the scene with Darth Vader. Yeah. Remember when they went through reshoots? Remember when there was a lot of behind-the-scenes chaos? Yeah, that was a scene that was added in at the last minute because they realized there really isn't a memorable part of this movie. That's not good. Wait a minute. Darth Vader exists during this time period. Let's go ahead and shoehorn him in. Let's go ahead and give his scene even more. And that's what you got. And if people love that, great. I think the scene is great. In isolation, that scene is beautiful. But it doesn't make up for the hot mess that is the rest of the movie. Especially since there's a lot of characters in there that are boring, and one of those boring characters is apparently getting his own series. So you had that come out. Then, of course, we got The Last Jedi, which totally threw the fan base off because it was just not Star Wars. On top of it just being a bad film, just a writing perspective, from an objective point of view, it was flawed in so many ways. And not only that, but when you put it into the mindset that, oh yeah, this is a trilogy, and therefore you're supposed to have one continuous connecting storyline, and everything's now just been gone to hell because of Rian Johnson and his incompetence, which then, of course, leaves this giant void and this giant vacuum, really, that's sucking up all of the energy that was there for Star Wars, and then leads to a Star Wars movie losing money. So again, timeline, big, giant box office movie, Force Awakens. Oh my God, the future is Star Wars. We get a little bit of that future, and then the future is put to a giant screeching halt with Rian Johnson's Last Jedi. And now, the state of Star Wars is just chaos. It's an utter chaos. And if you want to know why I think and suspect that this chaos is indeed real, and we're already seeing signs of it, I think they're keeping a lot of things close to the chest. But keep this in mind. Just keep this in mind. The last public appearance of Kathleen Kennedy, representing Lucasfilm, representing her role as the head of the Star Wars universe, was when she was receiving an honorary Oscar for her lifetime achievement of production with her husband, of course. That's like the last information that we have from her. It's the last time she spoke up. Isn't that just kind of weird that someone who was very outspoken during projects, before projects, getting people hyped up for the future of Star Wars, has been nowhere to be found? Isn't it odd that you haven't heard a damn thing about the supposed Rian Johnson trilogy? Except for what Rian Johnson likes to put out on Twitter, but we all know he's a giant troll. So why would we listen to anything that he has to say? And then you also have stuff like this happening. You've got Kiri Hart, who was supposed to be, best buds with Kathleen Kennedy, was one of the most powerful persons in this new women-led Star Wars universe. Her page just completely disappears. She is no longer officially affiliated with Star Wars Lucasfilm. Now, they haven't put a press release, they haven't said anything officially about it, which is why some people say, well, you have no proof of that. Well, I'm sorry, why is it that her page that was on the Lucasfilm webpage was there and is now gone? It now ceased to exist. And there's been no press release. We've been told nothing. Now, that means one of two things. Either one, she's fired, which I think would make a lot of sense, since she was also one of the heads of the story group, and the story group has obviously to this point proven to be completely incompetent when it comes to telling a coherent storyline over a course of 3 films. Or she's being moved around, which means it could be either demotion or promotion. Maybe it is that they are going to try and make her the new head of Lucasfilm. God help us if that happens. We've already seen what she's done as the head of the story group. Many of us still suspect that Kathleen Kennedy doesn't have much time left. Yes, she has that 3-year contract, but guess what? She has done nothing. She has said nothing. To what we have seen to the public's eye, she is nothing more than a figurehead at this point. Now, we could be wrong on that, but we've been given no other reason to suspect otherwise. So you have this backstage, behind the scenes, just chaos going on. You have the fact that the Phantom Menace is still as strong as ever. You have no news coming out. You have the Super Bowl, which normally, in any other year, would have been a prime opportunity to put a trailer out. Could you imagine? Again, you're 10 months out. They love to keep saying, oh, 10 months out. Don't worry, guys. It's only 10 months out. We got plenty of time to promote it. This is freaking Star Wars here. Star Wars is supposed to be an event. The Star Wars franchise is supposed to be the biggest event of the year. And now you have articles from Forbes.com and other places saying, yeah, you know what, Endgame's going to be the biggest movie of the year, and Star Wars Episode 9 doesn't have a chance in hell of matching it, which obviously any of us could have told you. But when you have even them starting to say that Star Wars is not the property that it used to be, it's not the IP, it's not as hot as it used to be, it's not hard to see that. Just go ahead and check out World Class BSers. They've been doing great research. Jeff has been doing an amazing job pointing out how the toy sales have just been plummeting, how things that used to be guaranteed money in the past have just disappeared, how promotion itself has essentially disappeared. What that signals is that there's a lot of chaos going on behind the scenes. It signals that things are not nearly as nice and strong and, ooh, yeah, everything's going great as they would want us to suspect and as they would want us to believe. Because going back to the Super Bowl, that is the best time to get the most eyes and the most hype for your film. Imagine if the first trailer for Episode 9 came out during the Super Bowl. But why didn't they do it? I have my own suspicions. Now, obviously, as I say, every time I say something that is my opinion, that is something that is my way of perceiving things, some people try and say, well, you don't know any of this, you don't have any facts. Again, I am just taking the breadcrumbs that are being dropped all around the place and trying to pick them up and run with them. I've never claimed to have secret knowledge. I've never claimed to have an inside source. Some other channels do. I don't. I just look at the things going on and say, hey, this doesn't look right. This just doesn't seem right. So my speculation is the reason why you haven't seen a Star Wars trailer or you haven't heard the name of it yet is because they don't even know what it is yet. They are trying to figure out what is going to be the best name to get the most people into the seats. What is going to be a name that's going to bring Star Wars fans back, the ones who have gone away? And also, what can we do? This is them thinking, what can we do as far as making a trailer that's going to get people hyped up for the movie? How can we capture the same hype that Force Awakens trailer was able to capture? I remember the first time I saw the Force Awakens trailer, that very first one, and I was blown away. I was excited. I could not wait to dive into Star Wars because we were going to get Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa. We were going to get all of the original characters. We were going to get some potentially really cool characters named Poe Dameron, Finn, and Rey. Because even at that point, Rey could have been, based on the trailer alone, Rey could have been an interesting character. But what they decided to do instead, they decided to make her a Mary Sue, and then after the fact, they decided to give the reins over to Rian Johnson, who had no idea what the hell he was doing, who has admitted his own self that he can't write. That's his weakest thing. And yet, Kathleen Kennedy is the one that's still theoretically in charge of all of this. But imagine if they could recapture that same magic before things just jumped off the cliff. Imagine if they could capture that same magic. That, I think, is what they're trying to do, and they don't have it yet. What this is telling me is that they do not know where to go from here. They have a movie. They have a script. J.J. Abrams has an idea. It's obviously been filmed. Most of the shots have already been completed. They've already probably started to put these things together, but they still have no idea what they're going to do with it. My evidence for that? We're 10 months out, no title, no trailer. The Super Bowl just went by, one of the best opportunities to get your name out there, to make a smash, and nothing. Are they going to wait until Star Wars Celebration? Really? Are they going to wait all the way until April to release the first trailer? Is that what you're supposed to do for the end of a trilogy? The end of the sequel trilogy? Now, again, in my mind, it makes sense because the sequel trilogy has been garbage, because the middle film doesn't make any damn sense and is so bad that it just ruins everything else. But from the outside perspective, from the people who are still trying to defend it, saying Star Wars is fine, and, oh man, you're just a toxic white male, and you're just a sexist and a racist, and blah, 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 blah. Please explain what's going on. Because my perspective is that they have no idea what the hell they're doing. They know they have to be successful, because if they're not successful with this, Star Wars is truly lost. Seriously, at this point, the fandom has been so broken by this. And what I mean by that is the fandom under Disney Star Wars. I mean, trust me, the fandom is still very much alive. We love Star Wars content. Why do you think that I've just been nonstop? I used to be a podcast person. I used to listen to podcasts every single day. I want to say for the past 2 weeks, I've been listening nonstop to Star Wars EU stories. Stories that were decanonized, were made very clear. These are not canon by that infamous, amazing, brilliant story group. And yet stories like the Thrawn trilogy, the Thrawn duology, Outbound Flight. You've got so many countless stories that were just like, oh, no. We're just going to ignore those stories. Disney had an opportunity. They had so much material that they could have taken this sequel trilogy with. They could have used the characters. They could have used so many different things. But instead they decided, no. We know what's best, and we're going to go in the direction that we want to go in. And the way that we want to go is, oh, well, well, we don't like that Star Wars has been perceived as a boys' club, and so we're going to try and make it for everyone. The problem with that is that both men and women loved Star Wars. By you trying to change the formula because you're trying to appeal to and appease to one gender over the other is a very easy way to ruin any franchise, is an easy way to ruin any film, any book, any play. Because you're essentially isolating half your audience. In fact, with Star Wars, you're isolating the vast majority of your audience. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't offer certain characters and give character arcs that allow for certain groups to be like, oh, hell yeah. You had a great opportunity for that with Captain Phasma alone. One of the coolest potentially one of the potentially coolest characters that you ever could have potentially had. But what'd you do? You screwed it up. You screwed it up because you thought, oh, no, Rey, that's what's best. A Mary Sue, that's how we're going to save Star Wars. And many people might suspect, maybe the sequel trilogy will go through the same thing that the prequels did. But keep this in mind, the prequels are finding so much more love now than they ever have before because of the nonsense of Disney. Because what this forces us to do is to look back and say, hey, at least those stories made sense. At least this prequel trilogy works consistently as 3 individual stories that all tie in together. At least we have compelling characters that we care about and we find out the origins of. Yes, there's terrible dialogue. Yes, the CGI is a mess. Yes, there are so many things that I myself will complain about and critique on a daily basis. There are people that I get in arguments with who are prequel defenders. But no one's going to deny that the prequels are so much better as far as a coherent and cohesive story unit. And if you deny that, if you decide and remain to be ignorant to that fact, there's no helping you. The reason why this is not going to happen to the sequel trilogy is because this was a coherent story to begin with. The fans just got caught up with all of the little details that just weren't quite right. The accents, the way characters were portrayed, the editing, the way the dialogue just sucked in general, was just put on blast. The sequel trilogy has nothing that's going to be able to pick it back up, because even if something worse comes out in the future, because that's what you have to say is that, oh, so something worse is going to come down the line. I mean, I'm sure a Rian Johnson trilogy could really fix that for everybody. But at the end of the day, it's not going to fix the narrative issue that currently exists within the Star Wars universe. And for anyone that tries to say, oh, well, maybe JJ's movie is going to fix everything, unless it retcons, unless it changes, core elements to the story that Rian Johnson wrote, There's just no way that can happen. But anyway, guys, what are y'all's thoughts on this? Do you think that there are some behind-the-scenes stuff? Do you think that is the reason why it's so quiet? Do you think that's the reason why we're not getting really any hardcore Star Wars news? It's mostly just rumors and speculation at this point, which, of course, is a part of the Star Wars universe, and I'm not denying that, but I feel like it's been exceptionally quiet. The fact that the Super Bowl has now come and gone with not even a trailer or a name, and we're 10 months out. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Guys, if you like this video, smash that like button, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. You're amazing and beautiful people. Because seriously, we love Star Wars. As I said before, I am just diving through the second book of the Thrawn duology as we speak. Also, I'm reading a book that, the amazing Laura Ryan stole my fanfiction story, one of the greatest names ever, gifted to me in the Revenge of the Sith audiobook, like the book-made version, like the audible version, and it's great. It's wonderful. I'm learning if you've never read the book or listened to the audiobook, I recommend it because you get so many behind-the-scenes details and you get internal thoughts, and it just makes the movie make even more sense, and I think does a lot of justice to it. So the love of Star Wars is still there. Again, I wouldn't have been listening to hours and hours of this content if it didn't mean something to me. If it didn't bring about a sense of joy within me. Like, seriously, there were moments when I smiled. I was like, oh my God, that was awesome. I'm glad that I never knew that. I'm glad that this wasn't spoiled for me. Which is why all of this just ticks me off. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.